Caribbean Network Media. News for all races, connecting you to the world.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain. So
yes, absolutely beautiful Tuesday morning from here in Lagos. I'm Kayode Kikilu.
Good morning from Abuja. I'm Maupe Ogunyesu.
Yeah, so looking at those images of the police, and then you talk about pension. We already know that, look, it's not a good tale. Whenever you hear pension being highlighted in the news, most times, because even before now you hear the older citizens, senior citizens just dying, waiting in the queues, and now we see something similar. If nothing is done about it, who knows if that may end up being the case. And this has got to do with the police and the contributory pension scheme. Oh dear. Wow. You'd have thought that with all of this, because look, it takes just trying to find the exact words. So when you look at these things, you keep wondering, how in the world will we allow this? Yeah, we'll have to say this as a society. We cannot. Because look, this sends several messages across board. No need to go down memory lane history where they tell you how corruption started in civil service, how people started talking about, well, if this is how it's going to be, no way, I can't end up like this, so I have to do certain things. Even though they'll tell you, look, there's no reason for anything whatsoever, but you can't afford to have this kind of imagery. And this is not just, these are policemen, yes, retired policemen. And we know how we talk so much about ensuring that the police they behave themselves, conduct themselves properly on the road because they're committed to so much or with so much, and so they're expected to be of utmost behavior. And the other day we're talking about judiciary, how they needed to improve their lot while they're still in service. And now you talk about this one. Oh boy, something not good.
Honestly, leaves a bad taste, not just in the mouth. Several areas, and there are a lot of people watching this. Like you said, you reference current policemen. I know, they can't protest, right? So I imagine if they could protest, actually, imagine how many policemen, serving policemen and women you'd find on the streets protesting, various issues like perhaps their pay, working conditions, and the rest. And it's incidental, right? Coincidental, I should say. I had this conversation with Mr. Alobi just yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
He was wondering why can't, for example, an NNPC staff earn the same thing as a policeman? And while there might be a lot of reasons for that, but the question is why, really? Because when you look at the job of a policeman and the job of an NNPC, and I don't just want to, restrict this or seem like this is targeted at the NNPC. That was the example he gave. But why? Look at a law enforcement agent. They're essentially responsible for protecting lives. And then you can't put a value to lives, right? Lives and property. Yes, property is valuable to an extent, but lives, they're responsible for that. So you imagine that there should be priority, as it were. And just like Chamberlain referenced, we just had a conversation about judges, even though some say it's basic salary, and they say, well, the allowances are way more than that. In fact, they reference why some lawyers abandon that just to jostle for just, and they say, well, maybe they have it good. But look at the lawmakers as well. The legislature, they do quite well. I've not seen senators or reps protest about their salaries. And
that will be the day.
Honestly, that will be the day. So you have the legislature sorted. The judiciary, some will tell you they have it good to an extent, but this is part of the executive. You forget that the police is actually part of the executive, right?
They're everywhere, as a matter of fact. And they see what happens across board.
Absolutely.
And so they feel, look, if we see what goes on, and that's why some of them who go rogue, they just say, well, we know what's going on. We see what's happening. So these are some of the things that we can't gloss over and ensure that these things are actually addressed.
Yes, I know the reason, part of the reasons they're protesting is the fact that they were added to the contributory pension scheme. I think 5 years before they retired, so they didn't get enough time to contribute compared to other people who probably contributed for more. And you understand that that's what they will share and give them per month. So it's a lot, but my own challenge is this: why can't we give as much priority to the police as we give to some of those other, strata or sectors that I have mentioned? Why?
Because in addition to that, they say, look, we want out. Now, if you look at other security counterparts, military, DSS, they're on a better scheme. So why didn't you put us on that same scheme? Because, I mean, it's the same security architecture we're part of. So even the ones that were in, we're not being paid, and so it's not looking good. So who's listening? Somebody should. Martha?
Really, who's listening? I think that's a big question. We had Mr. Alobi here in the studio, and all you could hear him say when we talked about the security situation with regards to the police, the loudest thing that we heard him talk about was for policemen, the welfare of policemen in the force. Now, if this is the fate of policemen outside of the force, as for men who have since retired and are now outside the force, and they have to protest to get their pension, I mean, what are we telling those in the force? Those in the force are not even able to get, a lot of the things which, according to Mr. Alobi, they used to get before now. Now, I know he's not the only one. Remember once when we had the former CP for Lagos, Mr. Owosheni, in the studio, and we're talking about security, and all of a sudden we talked about the police, and you saw how angry he got, talking about how the Nigerian state has not done well by its police, that the police that we have today, they're miracle workers. The fact that, they're standing on the roads and doing what they do, it's a miracle by itself. So there are those who know what ought to be and, feel very strongly about how, about the hand that the Nigerian state has dealt its own police. Yes, there's a history as to how, the police hasn't really represented the Nigerian people. But over the years, there's been a gradual evolution. At least I know for a fact that I might not be standing here today, but for the fact that a policeman at some point in his life, performed his responsibility as he ought to, protecting my family and saving us from armed robbers. And that was when I was really, really young, and it was a very dangerous situation. So at some point, we've seen a gradual evolution of our police force. There have been times when, yes, they have not carried on as they ought to, when they've been the oppressors, but many times they have been our protectors. And if we want them to continue, if we want to continue to attract more and more people that would carry the image of the force which we desire as a people, then we need to do better by our people. We need to do better by our police. We need to do better by our retirees. We cannot say that this is going to be the fate of those who have served for this country, those who have represented the state, because let's not get it twisted. The police, yes, much as they are the executive, they are part of the executive arm of government, they are the interface of the government with the people. When they wear that uniform, they represent the Nigerian state amongst the people. So we cannot say that for those who have, represented the state, the Nigerian state among the people, protecting them and ensuring that there is law and order, this is going to be their fate when they have retired. That cannot be. I'm sincerely hoping that to whomever this protest is concerned, that by today we will be seeing a response, that they have taken note of the situation in Kaduna. They have seen this protest on the news. They should not tell us that they haven't seen it, or that they didn't watch the news, or that they're not aware, because these are the kind of stories that we're getting out these days. Very shameful indeed. Let us hope that the people who ought to be carrying this message of protest are taking it up and are looking for how to address it, that by today there will be a response to these people, because this cannot continue to be the response of the Nigerian state to those who have worn its uniform, who have represented it amongst its people. I'm really hoping that that will not be the case, gentlemen, that today we will be seeing some actionable responses by those who are concerned.
Well, yeah, they've petitioned the Speaker and the President of the Senate, saying, look, that contributory pension scheme that was made in 2004, and so they then added them to that scheme, and they said, look, you can't make a law add us to the scheme when we're already 20-something years in the scheme, and they thought that shouldn't work for them. It's not supposed to take effect while they've already been in it. In fact, they say according to their legal advisor, that it goes against, I think, Section 173, Sub 2 of the 1999 Constitution, saying it alters the existing the benefit system which they already have, alters the entire scheme, and so they think, no, this should not be the case. So we're hoping that the authorities will listen, just be, holding ourselves back. Even though, yeah, the generation, we've done something about that No, I don't think we prioritized that much of that transmission. So there's the side security concerns saying, look, there's a huge part, but look, what are we going to do? Are we just going to keep talking about that without solving the challenges that we've got? I don't know. It's oh boy. Well, while like that, look at this at the bottom straight. Buhari arrives in New York to push vaccine equity at UNGA. Yeah, nice one there. Pro-anti-Buhari groups clash in New York. Showere's group mobilizes for fresh protest. Lists 4 demands. Yoruba Nation agitators vow to hold historic protests on Friday, despite presidency's warning. So all of that you can find on the front page of The Guardian today.
Well, here's what you find on the front page of the Vajor to FG. Accumulating debt for incoming government criminal. I mean, the former president made that statement last week, and it's still causing ripples. If you've not seen that, you can catch that on our YouTube page. We caught up with him in South Africa on the sidelines of an event in Durban, and he said this much and more. But take a look at the rider. Says borrowing for recurrent expenditure is fully. So more details on page 5. And right under that, you see Buhari arrives New York. And President Buhari, of course, is in New York ahead of the 76th session of UNGA. That's UNGA, United Nations General Assembly. Sit at home. Business owners lament lack of security as police assure intervention. Economic activities resuming in Owerri, Omaya, Abakaliki. So that's an update on the situation in the southeast, page 9. There's also the talk about students who may have missed their exit examinations, their WAEC exit examinations, as to an arrangement being made for them. But ultimately, WAEC is meant to decide that. Don't forget, WAEC is West African, not just Nigeria. So all eyes on that one. Nigerians spend 2.2 trillion naira on petrol in 12 months. It's on page 19. So I really don't know where to place that, and I think it's important to understand the context of that one. Page 19 of Vanguard will give you more details. And this one, Khan urges FG Kaduna to immortalize Melafia. That's a page 13 read. There's, of course, Mr. and Mrs. on the front page. The back page has sports for you. Falcons Bayana battle on final day. That's today, of course, in the Aisha Buhari Invitational. I wonder how that will swing. I know how it will swing, but we just want to find out, right? Let's look at for the Vanguard newspaper. Okay.
Well, let's take a look at this one. Southern leaders disagree over 2023 presidency. Yeah, so politics leads the front page for the leadership newspapers. It's Igbo presidency on nothing, says Ohaneze. No, North must retain power. That's according to Northern Coalition. Afenifere Pandef faults NEF's population claim. That's a Northern Elders Forum population claim. Niger Delta activists back Southern governors. Oshibajo Celebal in 2023. That's attributed to Governor Sule. Nigeria's unity unshakable. That's according to the federal government. So you find all of these details on page 4 of the paper. It's a lot right here for you in terms of politics. But when it comes to governance, they also have something here. Kaduna, Ekiti, Anambra, Akwa Ibom.